Closer to home in Castleton today, Governor Doug Burgum and other local leaders celebrated the grand opening of a new soybean crushing plant. We got the chance, though, to get his thoughts on Governor Walz being tapped as the Democratic VP nominee. Burgum says that there are some things our states have been able to collaborate on, but he says Minnesota looks more like a neighbor of California than current Midwest states. Specifically, he attacked policies on green new energy.
We're looking at the Harris-Walz ticket is literally one of the most liberal tickets the nation's ever looked at, and I, when I look at it, it's more Hubert Humphrey, Walter Mondale, for those that remember back in those days, and I think there'd be a lot of Minnesota voters in Trump country in Minnesota that are going to be voting for the Trump-Vance ticket.
Burgum is getting ready to head to Montana Friday for a Trump-Vance rally.